put together in order to increase rental opportunities, and on and on and on. And now we have these budget cuts that are going to hurt an awful lot, particularly with our cities trying to give support to home ownership, etc. But you would think that Mnuchin, who's now the Treasury Secretary, would be out there doing everything possible to open up these opportunities. But we don't know what he's doing. As a matter of fact, remember he was the CEO of One West. One West, now, he got over big time. He got over big time because they were able.
IndyBank.
Huh?
It used to be IndyBank.
It used to be IndyBank, but remember what he did? IndyBank went under, and he picked all that up for pennies on the dollar, made millions of dollars. But he foreclosed on 36,000 homes in this overall Southern California community. So I don't know which way he's going, what he's going to do, but we know this. We're in a period of resistance, and we've got to resist some of the attitudes and initiatives by this administration because they simply don't seem to know what they're doing.
Resist.
I'm going to segue a minute to talk about Wells Fargo. I want to talk about Wells Fargo because they're supposed to have a program. Have you heard about it?
No.
It's supposed to have, what is it, $60 billion that's targeted toward the African American community. That's what they said. When they came to my office, I told them, listen, I've seen these efforts in the past. I've seen when there was, there's been a lot of consolidation in the banking industry, but we've seen a lot of mergers. And when they were going for the mergers, they would come to Congress of the United States, and they would talk about all they were going to do and how they were going to put money into minority communities, etc. And over the years, it has really not happened in the way that they promised. Now, you have Wells Fargo, who's saying they're going to put $60 billion in, and they're going to target it toward the African American community. And I asked them why were they doing it, and they said they were going to do it because they wanted to increase home ownership. That as they look at the numbers, there's this disparity that home ownership is not keeping up with others in this country. And I said to them, that's not why you want to do it. You want to do it because you created all of those fake accounts in people's lives. You want to do it because you want to improve your image. You want to do it because there were innocent people who had accounts in your bank. You took their names, you stole their identity, that's what you did. And you created accounts and you made money on it. You charged them fees, but more than that, you wanted to paint a picture that you were growing so that you could get big investors to come in and invest more money into Wells Fargo. But that's okay, as long as we're clear and we understand what you're doing. Now let's talk about this $60 billion. What are you doing? They said, oh, Ms. Waters, we're doing everything. We're doing outreach. We're getting people involved so they can get the information out. I said, well, who are you outreaching to? The first thing they said was, no, they didn't say the right thing first. That's why I had to get on. First thing they said was NAACP and Urban League. I said, I don't know nothing about housing. I said, they're civil rights organizations.
Keep it real.
Organization. You at the wrong place. And then I started to talk about consolidated, talk about Ron and all. They said, oh yeah, we're in touch. I said, okay, then we can talk. We can talk. Because listen, you've got to make them spend this money. You've got to make them finance these mortgages. You've got to make them do what they say they're going to do.
Amen.
Now, I'm not happy because of this. It's one thing to say that you're going to, finance these mortgages, but you've got to tell me a little bit more about how you're going to make up for the discrimination that took place, where people who had credit that was equal, income that was equal, debt that was not detrimental, but they got charged more interest rates.
Thank
others,
you.
Who didn't have, well, what happened was, when you compared what they were doing to us in relationship to others, others were getting better mortgages. Others were getting taken care of, but we were being placed into the worst mortgages. And so until you tell me a little bit about how we're going to deal with this, I've got to look at everything from credit scores to you know what in order to open up opportunities. Otherwise, if in fact the criteria is, you know, absolutely the stellar criteria where your credit rating has to be up here and your debt has to be this low and on and on and on, your $60 billion doesn't do my community any good. You've got to get rid of some.
Ooh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ownership. And
Thank you, Congresswoman.
about this. And we've got to stay on them and keep the pressure on them. We can't have a few years pass and then they say, we tried. But did nobody want a home? That's a lie. You know, even when we can't afford a home, we want a home.
Amen. All these homeless people are
We've
here.
been socialized in such a way that home ownership is everything for us. As a
Amen.
matter of fact, we feel like we real are participating citizens in this democracy when we own a home.
Hey,
So
teach.
don't tell us about what we care about home ownership, because we really, really do. And so, not only do we have to make sure that Wells Fargo lives up to this promise, but we've got to deal with all of these financial institutions. We brought them here, remember? Remember when we brought them here and we talked about what was going on with Fannie and Freddie, and the fact that, you know, Fannie and Freddie had all of these houses that they had foreclosed on, and they were putting them in the hands of certain people, and you didn't have an opportunity to really deal with the sales on these homes, on and on and on. We have to keep pressing and pressing all the time in order to make sure that we have opportunity, that you have an opportunity to do the sales, that our citizens have the opportunity for home ownership. I met with a group of people before I left Washington yesterday. We talked about tax reform and what this president is talking about with tax reform. We don't know. We have to watch this very carefully. You know, there are those who want to take away the mortgage interest deduction.
Yes.
You know that. And you know how that's going to hurt you if you do that. And so I said to them, no, I don't think you should do that. It's like motherhood and apple pie. And so we've got to fight to make sure that we maintain that in whatever tax reform you're going to do. Because if you take away that mortgage interest deduction, what you're going to do is you're going to hurt not only a lot of people who want to own homes, but you're going to hurt the people who sell those properties. And so it's one thing after another. It's one thing after another. But I think that given everything that Consolidated has been about, the work that you have done, the pain that you've had to endure, you gotta understand that this stuff doesn't come easy, and you gotta still fight. You gotta still fight for everything. And I want you to, as I know you will do, and Mark will do, and others, stay in touch with me so that you can continue to point me to issues that must be dealt with. And all of your legislators, we know a little about a lot of things, but we don't know much about everything. And so you gotta help keeping us educated and understanding what's happening in this area that you work in. And so I, as you know, am resisting the whole administration. I'm just resisting.
Amen. Hallelujah. Thank you.
You know, and why am I so offended? And why have I taken this on? I've decided to take off the gloves, put the career on the line, all of that, because this president means us no good.
Amen. Tell the truth, Maxine
People
Waters.
who have histories of working against us. You think
Yes.
that I'm happy with Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General? He's a racist. As a matter of fact, he said the NAACP and the ACLU were communist organizations. He said he loved the KKK until he found out they smoked pot. He's got Bannon, who came from Breitbart, who is a known, defined, and unashamed racist. Why do we have these people in his cabinet? And while Ben Carson is not a racist, he's just ignorant about politics. He's stupid. Well, you know, he's a brilliant man. He's a neurosurgeon. Go back back and do your surgery and leave her the hell alone. Because you don't know what you're doing and you're about to mess up a lot of people. He said it's the poor you're responsible for. He's made some statements that are unbelievable, but no background, no experience, no understanding. And he's supposed to go on a listening tour where he went around to some public housing projects. Because you know, you almost think that he's thinking like the president is thinking. Remember what the president is thinking? Remember what he said? Y'all don't have anything. He said, you live in the worst neighborhoods. You can't walk down the street without getting shot. You better take a chance on me. He disrespects us. That's what he thinks about us. He doesn't know about our contributions and our sacrifices. He doesn't know what we've contributed to this democracy. And so to have this man come along, who is a bully, a liar,
Yes,
a cheater,
yes,
a thief,
yes.
everything that you can think of, if it was one of us, we would have been in jail a long time ago.
Tell the truth. Woo!
Remember what he and his daddy did with those apartments up in New York? They didn't allow black people to rent them. And we're supposed to be comfortable with him? Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I believe him. He showed me who he is during the campaign. He mocked and mimicked a disabled journalist in a wheelchair. What grown man, what mature individual would do that in front of the entire world? Somebody running for president could find themselves on video talking about how they grab women by their private parts and they can get away with it because they're a celebrity. He even disregarded and disrespected Republicans that were running in the same race when he looked at Cara Farrion, and what did he say? Look at her face. Who would vote for her? Disrespectful. I was at one of the debates with Hillary Clinton where he stalked her, got in her face, called her crooked, and they joined in and taught their people how to say, lock her up, lock her up. He talked about Obama even before he was elected. He carried out that birthday issue longer than anybody else, saying that he wasn't born in the United States, and questioned how he got through college. They said it must have been on the affirmative action. And so we're supposed to think that we're going to get something out of him. Look, people talk about Omarosa. I have nothing against Omarosa. I know her. And I know that she's trying to do something. I don't know what she's trying to do. But he's not going to do anything. He had the presidents of the black colleges and universities came to the White House with a proposal. Well done, well put together proposal. They didn't even get a chance to present it. They only wanted him for a photo op. And then Kellyanne Conway sat on the couch with her knees showing, taking pictures. And then he said he was going to help out the black colleges and universities. But then now he's made a statement and said, well, it may be unconstitutional for him to do it. So I'm after him. I'm after him because in the first place he colluded with Russia to undermine our democracy. We fought hard for voting rights. We fought hard to make the voting systems better. We're still working on voting systems. We still to make sure we have early voting days. We got to make sure that we reduce these lines in the voting booth. We got to make sure that people are able to vote all over this country. So here we are fighting to strengthen voting and participation in the democracy. And you have a president that comes along who appears to be with his allies colluding with the Russians to undermine our election system, simply because they want Trump as the president. Because Trump said he would lift the sanctions so they could drill in the Arctic for oil. He hates Obama because Obama placed sanctions on Putin and the Kremlin because of their invasion in Crimea. Remember that? And the fact that they dishonor their citizens, shoot them down in the street if they disagree with Putin, etc. So he has sanctions, and all of our allies work with us to impose those sanctions to keep Putin from being able to drill in the Arctic, and it's worth trillions of dollars. And all of the allies that are associated with them will become multi-billionaires. And that includes Trump. That includes Manafort, who was his presidential campaign director, who worked in the campaign until it was discovered that he had connections with Russia, and then he left and went on to honor those contracts he had in the Ukraine working with Putin. But it's not only that. You know, Flynn, who they fired said he lied to the vice president. Well, Flynn was all in with Russia. He had contracts, he had been paid money, he had been honored, sat right next to Putin in Russia. We got pictures of all of that. But guess what? He lied about his connections to Russia and said he had not met with the ambassador. And so when it became known, they had to get rid of him, but the president didn't like that at all because Flynn knows too much. And so he said to Comey, please don't continue your investigation of him. Let him go, he said. He's a good man. And besides, you know, I want to know, will you be loyal to me? And Comey said, I'll be honest. He said, no, I want loyalty. Comey said, no, I'll be honest. And this conversation went on long before you learned about the conversation that took place in the White House, where he asked everybody else to leave and Comey to stay in, where he really put it to him. And when Comey did not agree, he fired him. He fired him. But Comey took good notes. He took good notes. And he recorded everything that went on. And then this president tried to intimidate him, talking about, you better hope there was no tapes of all of this. And so Comey, in his testimony to the Senate, said, Lordy, I hope there was tapes. And so now Senate is mad because he's been playing with the American public about these tapes, about whether or not there are tapes. Well, he could never allow tapes to see the light of day because he's on them, if there are tapes, asking for Comey not to continue with the investigation. And so this White House is in a mess. It's in a mess not only because the Attorney General had to recuse himself because he took part in the firing of Comey when he should not have done that, should not have been involved. But this president wants to take down anybody who would continue with those investigations. He's talking about now perhaps firing Mueller, who is the special counsel. I said to the Hill newspaper, I dare him. Because that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. If he steps over the line to fire Mueller, Republicans can't even stand with him. Because they can't go back to their communities waving the flag, talking about how patriotic they are, and they're going to stand with someone who would obstruct justice in that way by firing everybody that has anything to do with these investigations. So, included in why I think this is a problem that has to be resolved in a certain way is the obstruction of justice and the possible collusion with Russians in order to undermine our democracy. Elect Trump so that they can lift these sanctions and they can make all of this money. And I want to tell you, they absolutely hacked our Democratic National Committee. They absolutely did that. RT, which is Russian television, absolutely interfered with a speech of mine on the floor of Congress and blacked me out for 10 minutes.
What?
They don't play. They mean business. And so, Trump is going to do everything that he can to have his way. He has shown us that he didn't care what we think about him, not stand in the White House on weekends, flying down to Mar-a-Lago, meeting with folks in ways he should not meet with them because we think classified information is being unleashed. We know he'll give up classified information. He did it in the White House with the Russian ambassador and the foreign minister of Russia. And so, all of this is going on at the same time. He's carrying it out with the cabinet that you should be worried about. The education secretary has never seen a schoolhouse in her life, never been in school. never been in a classroom, never been on a school,
Woo.
knows nothing about education. She wants to privatize it all, get rid of public education.
Oh,
Ladies
my
and gentlemen,
Lord.
I think that parents should have choices. And if they want to send their kids to charter school, fine. But you must always have public school.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
And so that's
Yes.
just another billionaire who has to finance his campaign, who's appointed to be the Treasury Secretary.
Thank you, Lord.
Ben Carson, I mentioned, this man, wait till he comes before my committee. I'm gonna have to take him apart because he has no business even thinking about accepting that position. This is where a lot of working families and poor people depend on their government in HUD. HUD is extremely important to housing. HUD is extremely important to our cities,
To
and our
life.
states, etc. And so whether we're talking about the Section 202 program or we're talking about CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Program, all of that, all of it is at stake. All of it is jeopardized now with the skinny budget that he has sent to us. And so, yes, I am speaking out a lot on here because you know what? Oftentimes we sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. You know what I'm
Amen.
saying? We don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. We can provide the leadership, particularly when we believe that we are being disrespected, disregarded, and discriminated against. We got
Woo! Hallelujah. Amen. Thank you, Lord. Oh, I'm so grateful to be here.
Rise to the occasion to show all of America that we believe in the country. We've fought for it. We've died for the country. Even when we served in the armies and came back, we had no housing and no jobs. And was discriminated against. Our people died. Tuskegee Airmen fought for this country. And you're going to tell me that we don't have the right to provide the leadership and challenge someone who would take us down? Our allies are all departing us because he doesn't understand foreign affairs. Stupid and crazy as he is, he says he knows more than the generals know. This man has his finger on the red button.
Oh, Lord
More than the
Jesus.
generals know. We got to get him out of office.
Amen. Amen.
There are folks who say, well, why don't you just try and work with the president? Why don't you just try and forget about all those things that he's shown
I
you?
say, why don't you run for
just,
president?
You don't think that he'll be better. Just give him a chance. I said, no, I want him impeached.
Amen.
I want him impeached.
Impeach 45. Impeach him. Impeach 45.
And so I'm saying it over and over again. It makes some people nervous, makes some people a little bit afraid, but I don't care about that. It's time for us not only to provide leadership, but it's also time for us to know and understand that the country is in danger.
Amen.
It's in danger. I mean, he's
Danger.
flirting around with Russia. Russia doesn't care anything about us. They have
Russia don't
nuclear
care about
capability
Russia.
pointed right at the United States. He had the nerve to meet with Kim Jong-un over in North Korea, and he's crazy. He hates us, but he's playing around with spreading his power, etc. And given, I believe, the opportunity not only to have alliances with China and with North Korea and others, all with this nuclear capability, they're coming after us. I believe that. I believe that. But meanwhile, Trump and his allies are focused on money. Follow the dollar, and you see what is happening and where they're going. So, having said all of that, every day that you get up, you understand and know that you're important. And you're especially important to people, oftentimes who are dropped off of everybody's agenda. There are many people who will never have a house unless you sell it and show them how to get it and how to find the best financing and show them how to work it.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to work the system in order to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
You got to work it. The average person buying a house don't know what they're signing. It's too much to look at. It's too much to read, and when you read it, you don't understand it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If Evelyn hadn't sold me my house, I wouldn't know what I was doing. And so I say to you, I thank you for being business people, for being entrepreneurs, for being salespeople. I thank you because, number one, not only do you add to this economy, but you open up opportunities for others to do well. I want to tell you, owning a home is something special. And I want to tell you, even though it appreciates in a lot of other states, in California, just hold on to it. You can make some money. That house that Alfred sold of mine, you know what I paid for that house? For about $27,000. She sold it for almost $500,000, y'all. Yes. Yes, she did. But guess what? When you own that real estate, you own that home, and it appreciates, and you can take that money, some of it, and invest it in another business, put it in your business, expand the business, help your children get started, on and on and on. And so home ownership is central to the economy. So I believe that. I'm going to work toward doing everything that I can to continue to support. But I want us to leave here today, Ron. Wells Fargo got to come out here. They got to come. They here. They got to talk to us. They got to tell us how we're going to get this done.
They right behind you.
You got to tell us how we're
They
going to
right
get
there
this done.
behind you.
You got to do that. It's not going to be business as usual. That is going to be the kind of opportunity that's going to help us get rid of some of the obstacles that keep us from home ownership. If you just come with your $60 billion and say, okay, if you've got good credit, big, good, strong credit, you can get a loan. We know that. We can get it from anybody. If our credit is that good, if our debt is that low, if our bills have been paid, we can get it from anybody. What you gonna do special for us? What are you gonna do to help us make that $60 billion work?
Yeah, what y'all gonna do?
So tell them Maxine Waters was here today.
Woo!
Wells Fargo, we want this to be real. We don't want you playing with us. We don't want you talking about what you're going to do with the $60 billion. We want that money financing the contracts that we write. We want that for the mortgages that we're going to be involved in. Take the message to Wells Fargo and tell them Maxine Waters is going to watch them, she's going to follow them, and she's going to work with Consolidated, she's going to work with realtors all over this country, and we're going to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.